Okay, guys, we are live. So for those listening at home, welcome to the Live from the Sword Coast podcast. My name is Kevin Madison, and I will be your friendly dungeon master this evening. Tonight, I am joined by the regular stars, and it's a bit of a callback to our Traveler crew. Two of the players who have become legends on the Wednesday night sessions. First up, Steve-O.
Good evening.
And Jeffrey.
Hey, everybody. I'm Jeff.
Tonight, we are continuing on with our ongoing campaign, playing Greg Gillespie's very cool, sorry, I'm trying to find the damn thing, Barrowmaze Complete, which we have now switched over to be running using Kevin Crawford's super cool Scarlet Heroes. This is a game that is based on the BX version of D&D, but just kind of ratcheted up to be a bit of super scale. Jeff and Steve, who are you guys playing tonight?
I'm playing Badonk Bent Bucket. He is a acrobatic goblin monk.
Nice. And Steve-O, who are you playing?
Playing Worben Silverstone, the impeccably dressed dwarven druid.
Nice. Very nice. So at the outset, we're going to do the camera shuffle in a second here. But I will say at the time of recording, this has been about a week since legendary game designer Carl Sargent passed away. So tonight's session is a special tribute to Carl. And I planned something special for the session. So we'll talk about afterwards, guys, why, kind of like where this came from and whatnot. But let's waste no more time. We'll do the old camera shuffle and get ourselves into the game. There we go. See, applications. Boom. Present to everyone. Hit that. Hide you. Don't stop broadcast. And boom. Refresh. Okay. So, Worben, we're not sure what you've been doing over the last day or so. But we certainly know what happened with Badonk. Badonk had a pretty eventful session yesterday. Badonk, why don't you tell us about what happened in the last session?
The last session? What if I don't remember?
You did drink an awful lot after you got back. So as a reminder, Badonk, what happened last session is you and Wes Silverfoot, you guys set out to, or Lightfoot, sorry, Wes Lightfoot, I'm combining your guys' names here. You and Wes Lightfoot, Lightfoot, is that right? Yeah, Littlefoot, sorry, I'm getting it all wrong. You guys had set out back into the Barrowmaze, or to the Barrowmoor. You located the Barrow Mounds, and you went back to that entrance to the Barrowmaze that you had found.
Oh, right. We ran into that other adventuring party.
That's right. You ran into the adventuring party. You guys successfully made your way down into the Barrowmaze. You returned there with one hireling named Gerlich, a young wizard, and his pet warhound Max. And you had hired this very spirited young fighter named Vaz Kez. And Vaz has proven herself, the picture doesn't really do justice, but she actually carries a halberd in addition to the longsword that you see there. So, Worben, you've been sort of off doing your druid thing for the last little bit, and you have wandered your way back last night. So we're sort of going to pick the scene up as you guys are. Steve, I don't see you on the camera in Roll20. You might need to do the camera shuffle, shut yours off, and then refresh. And I'll try refreshing mine as well too, see if that helps. Mit loading. Can you see yourself in the in Roll20? Steve-O?
No.
Oh.
No, I cannot.
Okay.
One second, and I should be able to now.
Okay. Let's see. Hey, perfect. Okay. So, I'm getting some feedback from you, Steve-O. Would you mind muting your, just mute in Roll20, that's all. That should do it. Perfect. So, you had returned the Badonk. You had returned with Wes the day before. You got yourself, good and drunk because you guys did have a really successful evening. Although you did make sure to warn your hirelings to not discuss, the fact that you'd opened it up and that you'd gone further in. This was, I think, you chalked it up to a more successful expedition, largely because you didn't get trapped in a room with a bunch of skeletons as well.
Absolutely. That worked out much better.
Yeah. And what you get up in the morning and come down, and you see that you don't see where Wes has necessarily gone. Just going to put a little Wurban in here as well. There we go. You wake up and you come down and you see Wurban kind of waiting at breakfast as well. So your two Biscuit and Bone, your two dogs, go kind of scampering past you, and the waitresses. Let's see here. Tacey, the brunette, Bala was, of course, behind the bar, and Tacey comes over and brings you your usual breakfast. And Wurban has already almost done his. What do you guys have to say to each other? Any early morning chit chat?
Morning, Wurban. Where you been?
And how'd you sleep last night? Any dreams of what's to come?
No dreams to remember. Where have you been?
I've been searching.
Searching, eh?
Searching for another set of spells.
I keep searching for a heart of gold.
Yeah, me and Wes spent out back to the Barrowmaze yesterday. Fairly successful trip. Didn't really find any loot, but back safe.
Wurban, I think you probably have been making use of, or rather taking advantage of the time to kind of try and learn a little more about that corruption that Skurg told you about. Remember, he had that weird dream about the rot and the strange fungus and stuff like that, and that weird dream he had about the dragon. Is that ringing a bell at all? Let me see here.
Steve, did you hear that?
Yes. No, I'm the big rings a bell.
Before we go further, I'm just going to quickly set up the trait check thing.
Trait check.
Here, I'm going to do this here. 1 sec. Boom. Okay, Steve, would you kindly go into close down Wurban and then open them up again?
Okay.
And then actually, Jeff, you could do this for Badonk as well too. Go into that third tab where it says attributes and abilities. Under abilities, there should be an ability called trait check now. I can't remember what I called it in Badonk's.
I can't access my abilities or that feat. I can only access my picture for some reason.
Hold on. Here. Can outed by Wurban. You don't have. Hold on, let's do this here. How's that, Steve? Try now.
No, still just a picture.
What? It's actually. Oh, you need to maybe try refreshing, Steve. Refresh your Roll20. I don't know. Are you sure you're on Wurban? Oh, you're not in the handouts, are you?
No, I'm on Roll20.
There's two folders. One is called characters and one is called handouts. If you're in the handouts, you will only be able to see the picture because that's all it is a picture.
This one's called journal.
Yeah, and that's not what you want. You want the characters.
Where is it?
Should be on the right.
Under the
Characters.
second tab. In the middle. Yeah.
Got it. All right. And sorry, under attributes and abilities? Or
Yes, please. You see where it says trait check?
Or trait roll? Mine says trait roll.
Yeah. Do you see that, Steve? On the right? Under abilities?
Yes.
Can you tick show in macro bar?
All right.
and then something should appear in your bottom left of the screen. Do you see that?
They should appear in the bottom. Yes.
Okay, great. So that's the thing you're gonna when I call for a trait check, that's what you're gonna click, and then we're gonna add whatever your attribute modifier is, and then if there's an appropriate trait that would add. Remember the last time we played Scarlet Heroes, you came up with some traits for Werbin.
Right.
Right. So those are what you're going to use. You're going to add to that roll as well. Okay. So you guys are kind of chatting and enjoying your breakfast when you hear kind of a really low rumble from somewhere outside. And this is something now you guys have not ever heard before. It's completely, and you can tell that from looking around and the reactions from people in the Brazen Strumpet that this is not anything. Everyone is kind of like, what the hell is that sound? And you hear this sound as well too. That is kind of plays on top of that. It's coming from somewhere outside, and you're all kind of like,
definitely be curious enough to go check it out.
Okay, so you hop out, and the dogs are kind of Biscuit and Bone are kind of like and hiding underneath the table.
Mm.
Werbin, what are you doing?
I'll tell them to stay, boys.
They quite happily do that. Their little tails wag. Werbin, what are you doing?
I am
gonna go with Badonk.
Yes.
Okay, so you guys make your way outside, and your jaws kind of drop because as you look up, it seems as if like the mornings in the Duchy of Eric, or at least in Helix, are usually fairly overcast. The weather around the Barrowmoor is generally speaking shitty. It's got mist always in the morning, fog at night. It's usually overcast. It often rains. Today, it is one of those days where there is a bit of a blue sky. However, there is something that is obscuring that blue sky. Because what you see hovering above the tiny town of Helix is an enormous flying city.
Oh.
And the screeching, there are massive engines on the sides of this that are rumbling. And the screeching you hear are these bizarre looking birds. They look like nothing you've ever seen before. And that picture that you've got there, guys, that is exactly what it looks like. People are kind of, gasping and screaming and there's people, one or two who are like, it's the end has come. And would you guys both make trait checks? I want to know whether you've heard about this place before. So if you can think of a trait that you've got, I think it's going to be an intelligence check. And then if you've got a trait that you think would apply, you can add that as well. Then go ahead and make your trait check. So what will be something that would like show you as a well-traveled person, something that would have means you've either read an awful lot or traveled an awful lot.
Yeah, not really. I don't think well, Kev, I mean, if I'm going with my backstory of he was an acrobat in like sort of a traveling circus.
Yep.
I think that that would be a reason that he might know, but the only thing that I have connected to that is my actual acrobat skill, and I always treat that as physical, so I don't know if that's that's not is crossover.
I think what we can do is we can easily fix it by just adding a word to your trait, which is circus acrobat.
Nice.
Okay. I think that's a complete fair descriptor of that. So yeah, go ahead and make your trait check, and you can add your trait and your intelligence. How about you, Werbin?
Well, I think the druids as a group would have knowledge of powerful magics from around the world and be part of their knowledge base. So I think druidcraft.
I don't think druidcraft. I totally disagree. I'm sorry. This is a pretty high tech kind of thing. Druids are, if it was something to do with like primal magics or something like that, I would absolutely agree. But I don't think that specifically would apply here.
All right.
I like the effort of trying to squirrel it into everything, though.
Hey, you gotta try sometimes.
Whoa, nice check there. So Badonk got a 9. Okay.
9 total, yeah.
9 total. But Werbin, why don't you just give me... Okay, 9. What is your intelligence bonus?
It's 0. So
0.
0 as well, too. Yeah, so both of you guys are like, what in the fuck is this? You've never heard of anything like this before.
No.
There's this enormous flying... It's like as if it was propelled by some kind of... you know what it looks like? It looks like the same kind of metal that is at the top of that wizard's tower on the edge of town. Oh, that strange thing. Maybe they're somehow connected to him. But whatever it is, these enormous flying and screaming avians go zooming past, and you're just agog at what these things are. But it seems like one of them actually might be coming in for a close attack, because this thing seems to be on like a strafing course coming straight for the town itself. People are screaming and running. What are you guys doing?
Duck for cover. See if I can find somewhere to hide. So
you guys dive for cover, and you hear, and you see that this thing, as it lands, it seems like it's got a fairly rigid body, or it's keeping itself rigid, because as this bird lands, its wings are still straight out at the side, and you notice that on the sides, its legs end in these weird wheels, like you'd see on a cart. So it's almost like a tripod cart. And as it rolls down, this thing's huge. It's easily as big as or as long as what the brazen strumpet is. And it seems that, like, at first what you see as eyes, you sort of do a double take and you realize that it's some kind, it almost looks like windows. And within it looks like there's something moving. This thing seems to have swallowed some kind of living creatures as well, too. And in fact, Exposition Grandma seems to think that's what's going to happen. She's like, "Run, children! It wants to eat you!" And Exposition Grandma and her grandchildren all go, running out of the clearing. This thing is basically landed right in the middle of town as well, too.
I'm staying hidden.
What, you're staying hidden?
Oh, absolutely.
How about you, Werbin?
I'll say, what should we do?
You look around and you see that Werbin has completely disappeared. Or that, Badonk has completely disappeared. What should we do? Badonk, hello?
You hear like this whisper from like where you can't really tell that anyone's there. Get hidden so it doesn't eat you.
I shake my head and I guess run for cover.
Okay. This, guys, is what it looks like, incidentally.
Ah.
Sorry, I didn't have time to scan a picture in, so. But it lands, and then you see that whatever this screaming tip of its head finally kind of stops, and you see that there's some kind of what looks like a disc suddenly becomes just two, almost like whiskers, maybe tusks. You're not sure, that just seem to be stuck out in either direction. And you hear something stirring from within, as if like it's ready to spew forth something. And then you see on its side, cracks appear, and it opens up. Its mouth seems to be on its side of its head. It's so strange. But then from within comes a tiny little figure, someone about your size, Badonk. You're sort of, kind of behind and poking and, over the barrel in which you've chosen to hide.
Is it birthing a baby?
And you see something, there's kind of like mist and dust that's already been thrown up as this thing came into town. And you hear, or you see this figure step out, and you realize as the dust is clearing, this thing is stepping down what looks like stairs that have appeared. This thing's mouth seems to have split in two, with one part going up and one part going down. And you hear this kind of coughing. This thing's making horrible sounds. And then suddenly you hear something kind of unexpected. A very high-pitched voice in common. "Hello! And welcome to Serene, the magnificent flying city. My name is Debo Fizzlecrank. I am one of the guides to Serene. Fear not, we come not in contrast, we come in trade and... There's a kind of a drum roll that sounds from within. Entertainment! And then he steps out from behind, and you can see that he's carrying some strange contraption in his hand. And as he steps out, you realize that the person who's talking to you is actually a gnome. And he trots down.
A normal-looking gnome that I've seen
completely normal-looking gnome. He's got some kind of bizarre leather armor on. It's got, this weird fuzzing around the collar, and he's got a cap on that looks like it would afford very little protection. And there's some bizarre goggles on his head. But he steps out and kind of has this big smile and says, "Hello, hello. No need to fear. No need to fear at all. Please come out from behind where you're hiding. Surely you've heard of the amazing flying city, Serene, and our wonderful, magical inhabitants." And you look up and you see that in addition to these, whatever these mechanical bird things are that are flying around, there's a number of enormous flying creatures that are coming down amongst the sort of horde that's coming down. And as they're coming down, there's like music playing. There's trumpets, there's harps. In amongst the group here, you can see pegatars. You can see harpies. You can see as well enormous sphinxes.
Wow. So most of these things I've never seen before.
No. These, you may have heard of them in Legendary, but it's bizarre. Like, these things don't seem to be fighting. They seem to be in concert, like as if like the harpies are sort of going, flying around, and they've got these long ribbons that are flying behind them as if they're like dancing in the sky to the music that's being played by some pegatar dancers. And then there's this enormous boom, sphinx that lands in the middle of town. This incredibly large fusion of like man and eagle and lion. But it lands, and it's lightning dancing off of its eyes. And actually now, Steve-O, you can give me a check and apply your Druidcraft. So add Druidcraft and your bonus. What's your intelligence?
12.
12. Okay, so 12 is no plus nothing. Hey, that's better. So what you know is that the sphinxes are incredibly wise and learned beings. And this thing seems to be, in fact, like they are said to be, they're said to be very capricious, but they hold incredible secrets and riddles, although they seem to enjoy the challenge of mental struggle with other beings. But this thing seems, it lands and it has a look on its man-like face of incredible wisdom and serenity. And as it lands, it sort of looks around, and there's, again, like, exposition grandma and her kids are all kind of like cowering, and the Sphinx says in a very deep voice, "Fear not. We come only in peace and friendship." And at that, there's this weird kind of sort of pulse that kind of goes out from him, and you no longer fear. Your heart's not racing any longer, and you can see as you look around, it seems as if the people who have collected in the area here, their anxiety, the fear, like the mercenaries who had grabbed their weapons, the other adventuring parties who had already awoken, who had grabbed their bows and whatnot, they're lowering them. The tension in their faces drained. What do you guys do?
How do we feel?
Fine. Same thing. Like you realize, or at least you feel now, you have absolutely nothing to fear from these things. If anything, it's just the fear of the unknown has been swept aside, and all you have now is the opportunity to enjoy the splendor of this bizarre scene. You see two or three of the Pegatar
approach and check it out.
Okay. So you and everyone else sort of, slowly makes their way forward, and what you find out is that these are just some of the inhabitants of the flying city of Serene. You learn that Serene is, and this is from what's his name, Beepo Fizzlecrank. He's sort of the pitch man for, or the hype man for Serene. And what he tells you is that it's a city built by gnomes, sky gnomes in particular, that drifts around the world. And it seeks to make, it seeks friendly diplomacy with every region that it goes. And just so now it so happens that it is traveling through the northern reaches. And it had heard of the town of Helix, so they elected to make a stay. It's offering, so you find out as well that there is opportunities on offer to go up to Serene, and the inhabitants of Serene are quite eager to meet the people of Helix as well. That's why all the multiple, or the varied races that inhabit the city have, the ones that can fly at least, have made their appearance. The way that you get up to Serene is the weird creature in which Beepo traveled, you find out is actually something he calls a cloud clipper. And the cloud clipper is the way that he takes people up to the up to Serene itself.
Is there a cost to head up?
There is, but Badonk, you're pretty darn sure you can't, there's sort of not unspoken, but there is a bloodless rivalry between goblins and gnomes. And what your belief is that all gnomish inventions, all gnomish, bizarre contraptions and stuff like that, every single one of these has been crafted to kill a goblin.
Oh.
Now, that's not necessarily true, but that's what you've been told.
Right.
That's what all the cleverness of gnomes is bent towards, killing goblins. And usually in inventive and horrific ways. Being sucked into their engines, being hurled into the air by their contraptions, being turned to goo by their transmogrifiers. So you sort of look at this thing, and as much as ever you don't fear it anymore, it doesn't take away from your, the lessons you learned about gnomes as you grew up.
Right. So I don't trust them.
I
might be interested to go and see what they're up to.
Yes. Well, an entire city full of gnome. They say that he describes that there is a, there's sort of like a path you can take where they will, there are sky cars, he calls them, that will take you around and afford you views of the entire, the entire city. And all you can picture in your head is like a catapult that'll throw you off of it and leave you falling, hurtling through the air. Ruben, what are you making of all this?
In this crazy city?
What's the name of it? Serene.
Serene.
If you look at, it's here. I'll show this to you guys again. That's the name, Serene, the Flying City.
And what was the name of the gnome who introduced himself?
Beepo Fizzlecrank.
Beepo.
Yes, my little friend. Oh, you're a goblin.
Yes,
my little friend. What can I do?
This city?
I'm sorry, or what?
Goblins invited onto your city.
Of course, all are welcome. All are welcome. Is that your friend back there, the dwarf? Hello, dwarf. I see you. You no need to fear.
All right.
We all come in friendship.
I am Warben, Storm Druid.
Well, hello, Warben, Storm Druid. Interesting. Are you from the region then?
Aye, not too far away.
Most incredible. Most incredible. we'll be having more of our folk come down, but would you care for a tour? Will you be joining? And you see people are slowly sort of warming to this idea. And kids are starting to come up and kind of like paw at the mane of the Sphinx, and people are talking to. You can see that like basically every building, every business around, all the prostitutes from what is it? What is what's her name's place called again? Foul Pheasant.
Oh, the Foul Pheasant.
The foul. All the prostitutes from the Foul Pheasant have kind of spilled out, and are just kind of whoa, yeah. Every farmer's come in from their field. Every, even Brother Othar and Sella and Gamdar have come out and are kind of like, wow, And you can see there's another one of these cloud clippers, these big red beasts, which you learn afterwards are actually conveyances. They're effectively like flying sealed carriages.
Now, do I know anything about these other creatures that are with the gnome?
Let's see here. I think whatever you didn't know, I think Werbin could probably fill in just because of his things. So harpies are normally quite aggressive creatures, but and also quite disgusting, to be honest. Like they tend to like live in filth and they'll eat anything. These things are much more comely and seem much more civilized. Like they seem like dancers. Their plumage looks exactly like it does in the picture, where it's this beautiful, like fiery red kind of color. Some of them wear their veil, some of them don't. But they've got the face of normally harpies have these really twisted, like almost bestial women's faces. These things seem quite pretty. They are wearing an awful lot of makeup, mind you, but yeah. As for the Pegators, you've you're probably aware of centaurs. I'm not sure that you've ever, even Werbin has ever heard of a Pegator before.
No, 8 limbs. My goodness.
Yeah, extremely rare creatures. So I'm not sure if you would feel you would feel it was rude to ask a Pegator about their origin, but there certainly are some around. So you could certainly do that. And there is, of course, the massive Sphinx as well too. But it seems like the Sphinx is drawing most of the attention right now.
Well, I can see that, but I feel some interest to them. They have lightning coming out of their eyes. I think I want to talk to these guys.
Sure. Yeah. Well, there is only the one Sphinx that's down here, but if you let's see here, his name is going to be
Peter.
Aotar.
Yeah.
So Aotar explains, that because he's sort of like people are just calling out questions and he's answering them. So if you ask, that he says there are many more of my kind on Serene.
Trying to figure out if I only, if this could be some kind of a trap. If I don't trust the gnome, I just want to.
Oh, it's total. You from your every ounce of your being says this is a trap.
Yeah. I don't know Werbin. So then I'll kind of whisper to Werbin to the side. I don't know, Werbin. This seems too good to be true. Must be some kind of a trap.
What you hear is that Serene will be here for 3 days. So they will be staying for 3 days, and then they will be carrying on. So you do have a couple days to make a decision as to what you may want to do.
I don't know. Do you trust them, Werbin?
I don't know. I say I'd like to talk to the Sphinx. They seem very interesting.
Yes, I definitely don't trust that gnome.
I think that there's so Badunk is kind of like spends all his actions giving the stink eye to Beepo.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Werbin, what questions do you have for the Sphinx?
I want to know what it knows about the secrets of the cosmos. It looks very powerful.
So what he says is, what is your actual question? Can you tell me the secrets of the cosmos?
I mean, I would say to Sphinx, hello, I am a storm druid from this region.
What is your name, Storm Druid?
My name is Werbin Silverstone.
Well met, Werbin Silverstone. My
Well met
name
indeed.
is Eotar.
Eotar.
He sort of bows his head and again, there's still like constantly lightning kind of peeling force from his eyes.
Can you tell me, I say, what?
He's listening, but he's just staring down the gnome.
And the gnome is making he's just the friendliest little fucker that you could. He is ideally suited for this pitchman, hype man kind of role. So really, you're the only one in the crowd who's arms folded, staring daggers at him. Yeah. Sorry, Werbin, what'd you say?
I don't know. What was my next question? I remember what I said, but I was like, do you know of the druids? I say.
I've known many druids in my long years. What circle to which circle do you belong?
Circle? Is that Storm?
Yeah, that'd probably be it.
Yeah, sure. Yes, I belong to the Storm family of druids. Storm clan.
The circle of the storm. And lightning kind of plays out. Well known is your kind to me. What brings you so far from the source of the storm?
Well, I'd grown about as much as I could in my home. I felt, and I needed to learn more about the craft and my people. So I went exploring, and I made some new friends. And yeah,
a tree needs both space and light to grow.
Indeed, you are clearly most wise. Do you know where a druid like myself might seek out knowledge?
If you walk with intent, you shall reach it.
Thank you, noble Sphinx.
He nods, thank you, Werbin Silverstone. And then someone else sort of calls out. That's, one of the things you do know is that they are sphinxes. What you've heard are, like I said, they're incredibly wise and they're incredibly crafty. And they do truck in knowledge, but they trade in either in secrets or in games. So if there is something, what I would suggest is if there is something that specifically you say you want to learn, then, contacting Eotar may be a way of, or asking him and seeing what he wants for it, either exchange of information or, exchange of secrets, I guess, or, going through a riddle, though the riddles games often attract a cost as well. Like you give something up if you lose. Yeah, so they are they're not just benevolent, things. This thing seems to be quite friendly, or seems to be at least putting the face of that on. Badonk, the fact that it's, near, keeps itself in a giant death trap like a flying gnomish city. Oof, who knows what they're up to?
Why are you friends with the gnome?
And what is your name, little goblin?
Badonk. Bent Bucket.
Badonk Bent Bucket.
That's right, sir.
The gnomes of Serene, the sky gnomes of Serene, are kind and industrious and clever people, good and welcoming to many kind.
Do you have any goblins living in Serene?
We have no goblins that I am of which I am aware.
Suspicious.
Your kind Welcome, as are all.
Yes, you've said that.
And it's just reinforcing your like fucking gnomes.
Screw these guys, yeah.
Perhaps you should judge this city for yourself, Badonk Bent Bucket.
Mm.
Yeah, and everything about you like, oh, that's even more of a trap.
Yeah, exactly. What have you? Yeah.
So, what happens, guys, is the do you think that like it sounds like Badonk's going to at least take a day to try and figure out, all right, let's just.
He wants to see if people go up there and come back safe, what they say about it, what's going on there. Like he trusts the people of Helix, not
the gnomes. Okay.
Yeah.
How about you, Urban? What are you up to? What are you thinking what would the day consist of?
I got to know more about this city. These people are pretty legendary, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, like you've never heard of anything like this. Like it's never. The fact that it's a loft, like that there are, the dwarves of the Blue Mountains. They fancy themselves fairly clever in terms of like mining apparatus and things like that. You've never seen anything like this. Like this is crazy. The flying wagon that he came down, that cloud clipper. Right. The fact that this whole city seems to be held aloft, amazing, like just amazing. Surely there's some kind of godlike work involved or something like that.
Right.
But so the day passes, guys, and there's pretty much almost everyone from Helix at one point or another, if wants to take a trip. The price of getting up to Serene is remarkably, it's like a pittance. And also you find that there are more and more people from Serene, a ton of gnomes, of sphinxes, of harpies, of pegatars, of these strange looking elves that seem to be covered in feathers as well too, that are called the Finair. They seem to come down and they're interested in like basically everywhere that you can access here. HHR Huffenpuffs, Jewel Emporium, the Church of St. Yeg or the Shrine of St. Yeg, Ocean's Mercenary Guild. They're talking to people in there. And most importantly, the Brazen Strumpet is busier than you've ever seen it. It's crazy how packed people are. Think of like, like a college bar where people are like, oh, excuse me, excuse me. That's sort of what the evening is like. And as you're, what do you call it? As we're getting kind of to near evening, as the sun is going down, Werbin, you've been talking to some of these gnomes, and Serene it sounds like this place drifts around the world, and it's got a ton of different races up there. There's creatures you actually haven't heard of before. There's things called gremlin that are up there. There's things called Nagpa, and you have no idea what that is. There are sphinxes. There are the pegatars. The Fainrir are apparently some kind of like, the Finar are apparently some kind of like offshoot of elves. Some bizarre, thing, and like, but all of it seems to be the work of gnomes. Like the city itself seems to be something that the gnomes themselves, the sky gnomes, have crafted. It's apparently, completely unlike any other thing in the world. It's a unique structure. Do you have any specific other questions that you wanted to ask about Serene before we cut to the next scene here? Because you certainly would have had a lot of time for Werbin to ask around, or Badonk for that matter.
Right.
At one point, Badonk goes and looks into the plane that takes people back and forth, and he's kind of poking his head in there, looking around. Yeah. And after poking around in there a bit, he goes, "Nope, no way, trap."
I think you're like kind of poking your head in, and one of the gnomes kind of comes up behind and saying, "Oh, hi there. You're gonna come up," and you sort of jump back as it feels to you like he was trying to shove you inside.
Yeah, no way, nope. Get your gnomish crap out of here.
The dogs are kind of finally out, in the yard, and they're looking up at it, and little tails are going. You're like, "Come on!" And the two dogs turning, come scampering after you.
Yeah.
Werbin, anything else you want to ask?
How long are they staying around?
3 days in total.
Okay, well, I'm probably good for today.
Okay. So that evening, your bar is just it's just full of people. Like I said, it's busier than you've ever seen. Vaz and Gerlich have approached you, Badonk, and because you can't seem to find Wes, you're not sure what he's gotten off to. They sort of, through the crowd of people that are going by, there's these enormous pegatars that have made their way into. They've even set up like some tables outside so people can there's an outdoor kind of area. It's been, of course, set up around Alistair and Mr. Paggins, and Mr. Paggins is really in his element because, keeps getting fed by so many people. And there's almost like as if there's at least 100 or 200 gnomes that have come down too. And they've helped set up some stuff outside. So there's this like crazy banquet going on. There's beer and liquor that's been brought down from Serene. So there's this crazy party. There's also these really unusual kind of like almost like clockwork driven sort of like lanterns that are drifting around the place as well too. So it really has a bit of a festival kind of atmosphere to it. Do you guys think you would be crammed inside, like up near the bar? Would you grab a table somewhere? Would you sit outside to drink? What do you think?
I'd want to sit outside and soak up the atmosphere for sure.
Okay, cool. So you're kind of watching everyone. And even at night, there's some of the harpies are doing these really incredible like sky sort of sky formation flying things where they're carrying lanterns and zooming around each other. Kind of like sort of like performing these incredible like living fireworks kind of displays. Badonk, you're still like kind of keeping an eye on the gnomes, I take it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll sit outside with Werbin right where I can see what the gnomes are doing.
Okay. So you're sort of watching these gnomes, just like, what are they up to? I know there's no good. And you can hear the woof, woof, the sound of Serene itself drifting above. And to your mind, casting a baleful shadow down on the city. And I think it's probably because you're so focused on that you don't hear the person who walks up behind you. And then you hear kind of a, excuse me.
Hello?
You turn around and it's another gnome. And he says, well, hi there. My name's Dr. Ray Stones. And this is, of course, Dr. Egon Springloader. And Dr. Ray Stones looks like this. And Dr. Egon Springloader looks like this. Egon Springloader is definitely much more stoic looking. He says, and this is, of course, our colleague, Mr. Winston Dreadmoor. And he shows you Winston Dreadmoor hanging out in the back. Tell me, would you happen to be Badonk the Lucky Goblin?
Yes, I am. How do you know who I am?
Oh, that's most fortunate. And he turns and says something to Dr. Springloader, and Springloader kind of goes, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Winston is just sort of looking around. He says, and of course, this is my final colleague, Peter. And he seems to be calling to some other gnome. And this gnome he's calling to, he looks like this. And he is sort of leaned across the table, and he's talking to two of the prostitutes that work at the Foul Pheasant. And he's sort of like just, it's clear he's got this handball or kind of cornball, routine. Race said, or Dr. Ray says, Peter. And he says, oh, and says something to the girls and walks over. He says, this is, of course, Dr. Peter Crankman. And Peter walks over and says, this is the goblin then? And you see Dr. Egon Springloader pulls out some kind of device and then there's kind of like all these arms that come out of it, and it starts like kind of spinning around.
Whoa! What's that? What's that? Is that a goblin eating machine? What is this?
No, I assure you it's not. And Egon is not really paying any attention. He's sort of like waving this thing up and down, and it's kind of swifting around. He's like, he does have an unusual karmic aura around him. I think this may be the one we're looking for. And Peter says, "Oh, great! So let's just." Sorry, what was that?
Looking forward to do what with?
Oh, sorry. This is. We're from Serene, and we're involved in a small business there that we've recently opened, and we've had some difficulties with the the local authorities. You see, they and then Peter interrupts and says they think we're going to blow the city up, and Egon says, "Well, it was not nearly a large enough explosion," and Winston says, "Oh, guys, you're not exactly setting him at ease." And you can see that, I'm picturing Bedonk just sitting rigid, perfectly still, and his eyes are sort of like darting back and forth between the different gnomes.
Yeah, like I am surrounded by gnomes here. This is not good.
Yes. Winston steps forward. He says, "You're the lucky one, right?"
I've been known to be lucky. What of it?
Well, we hear you're also for hire. And what the doctors here are going to spend about 10 minutes trying to explain is that they want to hire you for your luck, because we've been given an opportunity for these guys to show that their inventions are safe, and we like your help to do that. And Egon steps forward and says, "I understand that this place is rife with necrotic energy."
Barrowmoor?
Is that what it's called? The region. The swampy region.
Yeah.
Aye.
The readings of necromantic ways is all nearly off the chart. He holds up some kind of device, and there's a little lever on it going tick 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 tick. And Ray says, "Just Egon, we really do need to test one of our new entrapment devices. We've got something that is specifically designed for confining necrospectral energies."
You're gonna capture the creatures that are out in the moor?
Well, not any kind of creatures. Winston steps forward and says, "Things that are solid," and he sort of holds up his little pick. He says, "We can deal with that. It's the ones that are see-through. That's where these guys come in." And Egon says, "That's a vast simplification of our device, but..." And he kind of looks at you, Bedonk, and you can't really see his eyes still because he's got the goggles on. He says, "The device is designed to tap into the ambient arcane field and construct a lattice work of force energy in which we can maintain and secure the necrospectral entities, full floating apparitions and such." And Peter sort of leans in. He says, "I think you're losing him, Doc."
Yeah, Bedonk looks very confused.
Ray steps forward. He says, "Let me try and make this easier. Would you help us by going out into the Barrowmoor, going out into the moors, and wandering around until we can attract a spectral entity, and then..." And Peter says, "Trap it."
Okay, and what's in it for me?
Winston says, "Pay? They pay well." And Egon kind of looks around and says, "Well, of course. I thought that was implicit." And Ray says, "We'll pay." And Peter says, "Depends what you're asking."
What kind of pay?
Well, and Peter sort of puts his arm around you. Let's talk.
Let's talk.
So, let's say that, actually, I haven't even given thought to how much we want to pay you. I think, let's say, let me take a look at the sheet here. What is it you...
Well, I mean, to be fair, we might be more interested in some of their wonders of their ship. I don't know if there's any... Might be more valuable than coin.
Oh, and they all sort of look at each other, and they say, well, it requires some maintenance, but you would be interested in some of our inventions?
Yes, of course.
Oh, Peter says, well, we've got to have some junk kicking around. Looks like we got our guy. Who says there's no goblins are of no use? And he pats you on the back and says, what Peter means to say is we would greatly appreciate, and we're happy to negotiate a more whatever sort of terms that may be equitable to both of us. And he seems pretty keen on helping you. Egon says he'll never know how to maintain it anyway. And Winston says, if I can be explained how to make this work, you can do it too. If I can learn how to make this stuff work, you can learn it too. What were you thinking, little goblin? We wouldn't say little because you're the same size. What are you thinking, goblin? You want... Ray, I guess Winston turns back to the guys and says, well, what can you offer him? And the Egon says, a necro detector. If it works, I guess Egon says, if it works, we could give him a necrospectral trap.
That sounds good. First, I'd like to see it in action.
Not a bad idea. Winston nods. Tomorrow? I hear that from what everyone says, this place is full. So the region's full of them. And Egon as well says that, we have one other... he says, and what about Peck? And Ray says, oh, well, right. We will have one other member of our party. I hope that's not a problem. The representative from the city.
Okay.
Sounds lovely.
Peter says, wait till you meet him. And Ray says, now he's just doing his job. His job is to make sure that the city is safe. Egon says, mostly safe. And Winston says, well, let's just try and keep it as good as we can. This guy is a bit prickly. Do either of you have any experience with a Nagpa?
An egg-pa? I don't think so.
Why don't you give me... This would be... I think you could do an intelligence druid. I think your druidcraft probably would fit in here.
Okay.
But Donk, I'll let you make another circus check as well too. I think that's a pretty... You would have traveled quite far around. So an intelligence and what do you call it?
Circus.
Yeah, circus check, please. Whoa, Badonk, that's amazing.
And that's +3, so that's 15.
Yeah. So you have heard about Nagpa. Definitely. So the Nagpa are a enchanted race. Basically, imagine a combination of like plucked vulture and man with a selfish, bad attitude and some pretty impressive magical gifts. That's a Nagpa in a nutshell. And you're sort of looking around, and what you see is you do actually see one walking through the what do you call it? So walking through the area, and this is what he looks like.
Whoa.
And he sort of, exactly. They're basically Skeksis. Get thing. So you see that thing walking through. Do you point it out at all to anyone but Donk?
Yeah, I'll say, is that him there?
Looks over all four guys. They all kind of, yep. That's Wiltar Peck. And you see Peck is actually talking to Sella and Gamdar. And some kind of talking to them, and it seems like they're haggling over something. It says, "That's what you're bringing," and Peter says, "Yep, a plucked parrot with a bad attitude." We could just lose him. We could just lose him in the Barrowmoor. You could do that, right, Goblin? I hear you guys are pretty good at that. And Ray says, "No, Peter. If we don't get this approval, we will never get our licensing, and the business goes nowhere." Egon says, "We could relocate." And Ray says, "But what would power it?" And Winston says, "Look, can we save this? Badonk? Mr. Dwarf? Can we rely on you?"
Rely on us.
Of course.
Then tomorrow. And Ray says, "All right." And Peter says, "Where'd those girls go?" And he makes his way off. Ray and Egon leave to get some work done. Winston heads off to go somewhere else, and Peter disappears into the crowd. Well, you guys can't keep. You do keep looking at Wiltar, and it seems like he is, because it's just such a bizarre looking creature, right? And the what you can see is he's sort of haggling over some kind of ring that he's purchasing from them. It's this beautiful, like big amber looking thing. And is there anything else you guys want to do in the evening, or are we just going to skip till the next day?
I think we're pretty anxious to see what's up with these guys. I don't know if there's... I guess we would, get a good night's sleep and prepare equipment and whatnot, but...
Okay. Did you guys? You're free to bring Gerlich and Vaz along with you if you like.
I think we would, because, or at least Badonk would say we should, because we don't want to be outnumbered by the gnomes too badly.
Okay. So you guys, yeah, actually, good. That's right. Fucking gnomes. Okay, so then what we'll do is we'll just cut through to the next day. Let me cut and paste everybody here. Copy. Close Wiltar off there, and we'll swap over. Boom. To the screen that has everybody on it.
Nice.
We'll paste you guys right in the middle of Serene here. Boom. So, next morning comes, and you guys, once you've grabbed breakfast, or as you guys come down for breakfast, I think, you can see that it seems that there's the four gnomes are off in the corner, and they're all dressed in very similar kind of like, it looks like maybe some kind of like padded armor of some kind. It's got a very drab brown color to it. And each of them has some kind of bizarre, at first you think like, oh, clever, they're bringing backpacks, but you realize that there's some kind of cords coming from them. And there's dials and, different kinds of weird technological gewgaws on the back of them. And they seem to be getting themselves ready. And then that's when Ray sees you. He says, "Oh, good morning, gentlemen." And he kind of comes running over, and you can hear Egon says, "I wouldn't run with it. It's armed." And he walks over and holds the backpack and says, "All right. Are you ready to set out then?"
I guess as ready as we'll ever be.
Absolutely.
As you guys, well, I guess there's any last minute stuff you guys might want to do here, but then you see, where is he here? Oh, I'm sorry. I got to put old Wiltar down here as well. Oh, wrong thing. Bum, 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 bum. Where is he? There he is. Boom, Wiltar. Oops, wrong thing. There we go. Resize him. So, as you guys are sort of, chatting with the four guys, the gnomes, you see the door throws open and in walks this Nagpa. And he walks just like, the Skeksis from Dark Crystal, with sort of a serpentine sort of undulating to his neck. And he looks down. Gnomes! Is this what you've hired? And Peter says, well, oh, good. He survived the night. And Ray steps forward and says, oh, that's right, Inspector. We've hired, this is Bedonk Bent Bucket and Werbin Silverstone, and these are colleagues of theirs. And he gestures to Vaz and Gerlich, who kind of, are looking at you guys, not quite clear what's going on here. Ray says, we've hired them to help us. And the Wiltar's eyes, the Nagpa's little beady black eyes kind of narrow as it looks down at you guys. And you're capable of keeping us safe?
Of course.
What we do.
And his head sort of arcs and cranes down and says, that's not what I've heard of you.
Vicious rumors. Who listens to that kind of stuff?
The prudent type. And he brings his hand back and you see he's playing with that amber ring that you saw him purchase last night. Let's not waste time, gnomes. Let's get this facade over with. I don't know why the council agreed to this testing, but let's get it over with. He turns and, boom, boom, and throws the door open. And you can see that in his robes, there's this little thing that kind of pokes its head up out the back and sees you and then disappears back into its robes.
Yeah.
Peter says, claps you in the shoulder and says, "Yep, that's the right response."
All right. I don't know why we got to bring this creep along.
Winston says, "Well, you see, that creep does what all creeps do and gets himself a government job."
Oh, creep.
So you need his approval for your new business?
Egon kind of, chirps in. There's been some, I keep dropping my gnome voice. There's been some question as to the stability of the necrospectral trap. We blew up a building. And Ray says, it was a fairly old building, though. And Peter says, yeah, it was really old. It took barely singed the ones next to it, too. But I'm sure it's fine. I mean, we're each carrying one, right? We wouldn't do that if it wasn't safe, right?
But Onk waits until Wiltar is out of sort of earshot, and he'll whisper to the gnomes. He'll say, is it better for you if he comes back alive or dead?
And Peter says, well, and that's when Ray interrupts and says, no, alive.
Okay.
It took a great deal of begging to get this council to agree to this. If he approves this and we can prove the viability, this will do a great deal for the Spectre Hunter business.
Okay. I will protect him then as much as I can.
Please. Maybe we should go over the plan then. And Peter says, you didn't tell him the plan. Perfect. Why would he need to know? And he steps and walks away. And Egon kind of says, I thought it was only necessary once we got there. And you can imagine this happens as you guys leave and you're starting your journey. And basically what you gather is that they've created not only something, basically that their areas of expertise is this weird fusion of gnomish kind of like construction with arcane magic. And they've crafted some kind of devices that interact with different magical fields in different ways. What they seem to have had the most success with is something dealing with necromantic energies, things that deal with souls and passing of souls and things like that. They have created things that will interact with them, either attract or force them. Wurbin, I think, actually, you guys wish you had Vax, or actually, you know what, Grigor, or not Grigor, what's his name? Gerlich. Gerlich can tell you. So as Egon's explaining some of this stuff, Grigor says, like force magic. And what Gerlich explains to you, or Egon does in an obtuse way, is that force magic can actually act on incorporeal things. Things like ghosts and specters and wraiths and stuff like that. There's magic that sort of like fundamentally affects every level of that stuff. What these guys have done is, or at least they think they've put together something to try and deal with those things in a less violent and more easily predictable manner. You guys are well aware of the incredibly deleterious effects that magic or that necromantic magic can have. You haven't faced anything yet, but there are undead creatures that can actually drain your life energy. They can rob years and years of your life. And because dealing with them is so dangerous, it's usually the incorporeal ones that are like that. These guys have come up with a way of just grabbing them and trapping them. They also explain that they've got a more temporary effect, which is, they call it the Ghost Wrangler. And you see each of them, they've got that crazy backpack. It drives a kind of like gnome craft wand that creates kind of a energy lasso to trap incorporeal creatures. And the current design of the backpack seems mostly stable. Mostly. Sparks kind of fly from the back of one of them as he says that. So that's what they're going to do. The plan is, get into the actual Barrowmoor itself, activate a beacon to draw the incorporeal creature, and then trap it, showing that it's safe to draw them, safe to trap them. That means anywhere that Serene goes, they've got, or anything that happens in Serene, they've got someone who can take care of, free-floating apparitions. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Okay. So, what do you want the marching order to be, guys? So we got Wurbin behind my thing there.
Without Wes around, we don't have a guide.
Let's see what Vaz's traits are.
Yeah, I don't know if Vaz...
Oh, yeah, Vaz has got a trait called Wanderer. I think I'd probably let her...
I'm trying to think. I know Badonk has now been there many, many times.
Well, actually, and they don't necessarily want to get to the Barrow Mounds. All they want to do is kind of wander around the moors.
In the moors, right.
Yeah, they figure that's... From they're gonna. Well, Egon is carrying his that weird device with all the arms on it. He's got that thing acting, and yeah. So you guys are making your way. You make your way out into the moors, and let's see how things go here. Okay, so for the first couple of hours, you get out there, and as you're making your way along, Wiltar is griping quite a bit about the humidity, about the wetness, and whatever else. Peter is pretty much agitating him as much as he can. Winston is trying to be a bit of a peacemaker, and Egon is just sort of like blindly. I think he's, as much as Vaz was going to take the lead, Egon sort of takes the lead as he tromps through the following his device. And he's saying, no, not strong enough. Maybe, over here. Yep, over here. And with the horrific ends that you have either seen or heard about in the Barrowmoor, you really feel like he's, one wrong step away from being eaten by giant leeches, devoured by a crocodile, if not something more horrific.
Mm-hmm.
Let's try the next couple of hours. So, traveling around, and Wiltar says, "This is going nowhere. We should just turn back." And Egon says, "No, we're getting much closer." I keep dropping out of my gnome voice. Sorry, guys. Ray says, I assure you, Inspector, we're getting very, very close to having this the very place we need to be." And Winston kind of looks around and says, "Is this the way it should always look? And is it always this quiet?"
Is he asking us?
Yeah.
It doesn't stay quiet for long.
Great.
Not
Great.
usually too quiet.
So as you guys are, you get to, you travel on you've been traveling, I think, for about 4 hours at this point. Let's do 2 more hours. Okay. So it's 6 hours of wandering around the Barrowmoor. You're still, Vaz has a rough idea of where you guys are still. At least she says she does, at least. But it really seems like Egon is the one who's leading her. Like every time she tries to be like, no, we're going to go over here, he just starts tromping through, some muck and whatnot.
Yeah.
You get to one point where it really seems like perhaps one of the worst places you've been. It's all sealed in. There's this like really creepy still water or still pond. And because of the overhanging trees, it's got massive shadows at the side. And there's a bit of not a causeway, but there's a bit of like a tongue of dry land that sticks out. And as he sort of walks along almost out to the very middle of this, and he stops and looks around. He says, This is the place. Winston? And Winston walks over and he pulls this big, like, it looks like a really, really massive oversized nail with a bunch of weird stuff on the end, a bunch of weird gnomish technology, bits of metal and piping and whatnot. And he walks over and sticks this thing in the ground. He pulls out a pretty big wooden mallet and then drives the thing into the ground. Ray and Egon walk over then and start kind of dabbling with this thing. And then the top, which was like a kind of like it has a heavy cap on it that Winston used to drive it into the ground. They turn this screw, pull the thing off, and you see that there's inside this thing kind of like folds out like kind of like a metal flower, and then electricity kind of like starts arcing around in it. Wiltar looks at this and says, "Is it what's that, Steve?"
Sorry, he's talking to someone else.
Oh, okay. And he says, Wiltar says, is that what it's supposed to do?" And Ray and Egon kind of look at each other and, yeah. So, what are you guys going to do? The 4 gnomes kind of grab the wands that are on the attached to their backpacks and are kind of keeping an eye out. What are you guys going to do?
If I'm being cautious, or I think Badonk would be being quite brazen and showy of not being afraid and being used to being in here.
Okay.
So he's normally sneaking, but I think now he would be, you know, telling them about things, talking about their adventures, probably.
Okay. Of the people, Wiltar wants, like, he doesn't give 2 shits about what you have to say. But Ray and Winston in particular, Winston seems to have traveled quite a bit. He actually, you find out he's actually more of like a mercenary. The other 3 are sky gnomes. This guy is actually a deep gnome. He's not. He's from very, very deep under the earth. So like he's literally gone about as far away from his home as he possibly could. And it sounds like he's got a bit of like you guys have been exchanging a little bit of war stories. He's got some pretty wild stories about his journey from underground. And he's pretty interested in sharing tales. Like he's got that kind of well-traveled thing where like you guys have, there's actually some places that you've been in the course of your travels with the circus that he's been to as well. And there's that like, oh, you know that, hold on, did you go and see that guy? There's that bakery on the corner of right near where the common green is. And you're like, yeah. And it's like, yeah. The Elvish twist they have there. Incredible.
Amazing.
I've never tasted anything quite as sweet. And I think he's probably heard of your circus as well too. And he doesn't do the disservice of asking why you left or whatnot too. But yeah. And what you guys find is that what starts as a bit of like tense watching of the woods and stuff like that, it now becomes painful waiting, which then leads into boredom as the sun slowly makes its way higher and higher to the sky and then begins drifting down towards the western horizon.
Badonk is starting to like question these guys. Like, do you know this device works?
It's working perfectly, I'm certain. It's probably about maybe 3 o'clock or so at this point.
Did you guys bring any sandwiches?
Let's see, who would have brought? Oh yeah, actually probably. What do you call it? Winston has brought some snacks and stuff as well. And Greg or Gerlich and Vaz would have had the forethought too. Peter, during most of this time, has been smoking a pipe with what smells like halfling weed. And he says, "Did someone say food?" And as the day is getting longer, Wiltar is growing less and less pleased with the apparent lack of progress. And he says, are we expected to stay out here until the evening? This is a farce. Your dangerous technology is not suited for Serene. And Ray and Egon are both say, look, just a little longer. It's working perfectly fine. And Ray looks at him, it's working fine, right? And Egon says, and whips out his thing, the contraption that he was using to wave over you before Badonk, and he says, it's working fine. It should be attracting. It's giving off a great wait, what's this? He twists it. He says, there's a second frequency. He kind of twists it. And Ray says, what do you mean? And he walks over and looks at the contraption. So that's weird. It's not necromantic. It seems... What is that wavelength? Peter, what's it mean when it's in the 26th hertz range? And Peter says, oh, easy. That's conjuration. Egon? Egon says, yeah. Are you picking up a conjuration wavelength? Yeah. So we've been in the middle of the Barrowmoor and running a conjuration signal for hours now. Ray says, yeah. Peter says, you can see why that's a bad thing, right? What are you guys doing?
Why is it a bad thing?
At that, you hear kind of a from somewhere off in the reeds. The growl seems a combination of a low, hungry animal mixed with the sound of burning embers.
The hell have they done?
Egon sort of looks, says, it's not us. There's something else that's causing that signal. And he's sort of like looking around, and there's another low growl. And Peter says, Ray, that doesn't sound like a ghost to me. And Ray says, I don't think it is. And both of them have their little sticks out. And Winston says, that doesn't sound like a ghost at all. Guys, and at that point, you guys see this enormous creature burst from the reeds and land amongst all of you. And what this thing looks like is if you took burning coal and then you fashioned it into the shape of a man-sized mastiff. You burrowed out burning sockets for its eyes. You filled its mouth with shining obsidian, and you set in its belly a blazing blast furnace. That would be the creature that stands before you all now. It looks around. Guys, let's roll initiative.
Oh, no.
Okay, so initiative. I think we're rolling D8s, guys, and you're adding your Dex modifier.
D8 and Dex is, look at that.
Okay.
Wow,
I only got a 2 for this critter. And how'd you do there, Wirbin?
8.
Oh, Dinah. Check out the fast reactions on Wirbin.
Nice.
Okay. Hey, same thing for Badonk. All right, guys.
This is a Dex-heavy cleric.
You're a witch?
A Dex-heavy cleric.
Dex. That's you. Okay. All right. So then it will be you two, and then it'll be the critter, and then the gnomes, and then the Nagpa, and then Wiltar. So it looks like Wirbin, you rolled highest. What do you want to do? You have an action and a move. So this thing's probably about like maybe 30 feet away from you.
Right.
At this point, it's snarling, and yeah, like it's bigger than you. It's probably stands like where it's the crest of its giant like black back is probably about a foot taller than you.
Oh, dang. Okay, well, I cast how about I cast Fire Trap?
Ooh. Well, let's see what Fire Trap does.
Let me see here. I think I got my these are magic items. Where are my magic items? Fire Trap.
Here we go. Fire Trap creates a fiery explosion when an intruder opens the item that the trap protects. So that's probably not terribly helpful here. Here, open this box.
Yeah, put a bone in there.
You could do. I mean, if what you want to do is create flame, you could use produce flame.
Wait, what is that? Let's see.
Level 2 spell.
Oh yeah, there's that. Dang. I'm going to cast Obscuring Mist.
Ooh. So you let's see here. Obscuring Mist creates. Sorry, Steve. I intended to put together a spell book for you of this stuff before, but I did not have time. I will for next time.
No problem.
Obscuring mist, here we go. A misty vapor arises around the caster. It is stationary once created. It obscures all sight, including infravision, beyond 2d4 feet for 4 rounds per caster level, and covers 10 cubic feet per caster level. So you can cover 30 cubic feet in mist.
Well, he ain't gonna find me.
Okay. Okay, so this glowing or this blast of fog appears around Wurbin, obscuring pretty much all you guys and this thing as well, like pretty much up to the edge of this thing, I guess. Badonk, did you want to be concealed by that or not? I'm fine with you being next to Wurbin when all this kicked off, if you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so then Badonk, what are you doing?
I think on my turn, then, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the obscuring mist and my sneaky goblin, and I'm going to try and get around and get a flank on this thing.
Sure, you could do that. I mean, are you intending to attack it this round too?
Well, I want to see what it's going to do, but I also want to give like our party some strategic positioning. So I'm not necessarily going to rush in and give away that advantage on the first round. I'm just going
to say you can do that with the obscuring mist.
Okay.
So yeah, you sneak you've got yourself in a position. You're going to have +2 to hit this thing if you attack from surprise.
Nice.
Then let's see here. Oh, it's that thing. So this thing then it first sort of snarls up at the air, and as it does, like gout of bluish flame just comes out of its mouth, and it surges towards Wiltar. And nat 1. So it launches at him, and the Nagpa sort of squawks and ducks back. This thing misses him and plunges into the water, where this gout of steam comes up from where it hit. All of the gnomes then go next. So the gnomes all sort of like scramble around, and they draw their, they got their little wands out, and they're all sort of like, they're pretty panicked. Peter's saying, "That's not a ghost. That's not a ghost, Ray." Ray's like, "I don't understand. It's not Regon. What's happened here? It's some kind of signal. Something else is giving off a signal that's interfering." And Winston says, Where will we be doing that? And Wiltar just sort of screams out, "You're to blame. You've done this. You're trying to kill me. The council will hear about this. You'll all be exiled." And then we roll initiative again, guys. That was the end of the round.
All right.
Critters. I got a 2. Okay, so the Hellhound's going slow. The one last thing I'll say between transitions is as you guys are sort of collecting yourself and trying to figure out what you want to do next, you do hear another low rumble or growl from off in the woods or in the surrounding kind of reeds. What are you guys doing? Let's see. We got Wurbin and Badonk tied. I'll let you guys choose who goes first. You beat everybody else. So who wants to go first?
What do you think, Wurbin? Are you acting fast, or are you?
I'm on a roll. I will. I just lost my spell page. I'm good.
It's page 83.
I will go.
So one other thing you can do, Wurbin, if remember you got your Frey dice, and you can, well, actually you can't. There's only one creature right now that you can see. You can use your Druidcraft to make an attack as well. Right. You can do it. It does 1d4 damage, but remember in Scarlet Heroes, there's that modified chart we use to determine how much damage, and we only count hit dice in this. We don't count hit points.
Okay.
So what do you want to do? You want to cast a spell? You want to go and try and bonk one of these things with your staff? You want to cast some kind of cantrip. So like the cantrips for damaging cantrips, Steve, it's basically like I'm fine with you describing it kind of however you want. Like it could be like a little arc of lightning. It could be like flaming acorns. It could be ice chill. Like early frost kind of stuff. Whatever. I'm just going to let you sort of whatever makes thematic sense for your character class. I'm fine with it being.
Right. I'll throw a handful of exploding seeds.
Love it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you gesture and these like seeds go flying out. So the attack roll will be 1d20 plus your let's see here, plus your base attack bonus. Yeah, base attack bonus plus your druid craft. So what is your druid craft? 1. Okay, so you got 1 from that, and then another 1 from your base attack bonus.
Yeah.
And so plus 2. Go ahead and make your attack roll. This thing's armor class is a 4. Remember, you're adding this thing's armor class plus your attack bonus. Actually, just do this. Roll your attack bonus and your druid craft, and I'll tell you whether you hit or not.
All right, I rolled an 11 in total.
11 in total. Okay, so unfortunately, you cast the seeds. You sort of spy out from the mist. I guess you have to walk to the edge of the mist, and then you cast the seeds out, and it explodes in the water, but you can't really tell whether you hit it or not.
All right.
Badonk, what do you want to do?
Okay, Badonk will take his dog stance and come bursting out of his hiding spot.
Yep.
And make an attack on this giant dog.
Okay, so this thing's sort of like sloughing out of the water when suddenly you've come out of nowhere and like, you'll show this dog. Okay, so go ahead and make an attack roll.
So
nice, holy shit! So
I
that
don't
is
think 23 matters.
Definitely okay. So one thing we were doing wrong last time is each dice is rolled separately. So like in this case, you got your magic thing.
Yeah.
It's not added to the extra dice. It's just you roll it and then you compare it to the chart. So for you, let's see, but that one definitely does count. So that's 4. Holy shit. Okay.
Well, that was just 1d6 plus 6.
Yes.
And then the fray dice, you mean?
No, fray dice, there isn't a second. Oh, well, actually, okay, so maybe what we can do is I can just, so there is a second one of these things that is stalking in from it. Do you want to give some kind of flourish for how you're going to do your fray damage to that?
Well, if he's not close, then no. Because, I mean, I'm really just a melee character. I don't think it would make sense unless they were within some kind of range of each other. So if he's only approaching, I don't think that makes sense.
Okay. I mean, like what you could do is as you land, you could have seen this thing come out of the, woods, and then you could look down at your feet and see that there's a stone there and then kind of like, kung fu kick it towards it.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe I could throw something at him.
Yeah. Go ahead and give a whatever your fray dice is. 1d6 plus 1, isn't it? Yep. Holy shit. Nice.
So that's
So the first hit, as you race in, you grab into this thing's hide, and it's fucking hot, but it's not as sturdy as what stone is. So even though you can feel your hands it's like grabbing a hot plate. You kind of rip and tear this thing off and propel yourself off of its back. You do manage to tear out a good chunk out of the side of its neck, and there's some like red, almost like magma that comes out. It's not as hot as actual magma or lava, but it sort of pours out of its throat. And then you see this other one come out, and you hit it, and it skips along its head, and there's this like series of glowing cracks that have appeared across its forehead. Okay, then it is the I'll go with the critters. So turns out both of them are charging towards Wiltar. And both of them rolled terribly, a 2 and a 3. So they're chasing after him.
Donk is going to yell out. Can he yell out on not his turn, or?
Yeah, of course.
Check that ring you're wearing.
So Wiltar sort of gestures behind him, and there's this gout of flame that encompasses both of these enormous flaming hounds, and it seems to do absolutely nothing. They walk through it as if it was like a calm breeze. and he's screaming out, "Stop them! You're trying to kill me!" And the Egon stops and thinks. He says, "Wait, Badonk, what's that about the ring?" Hold on, that's not wait, Badonk, what's that about a ring?
We saw him buying a new ring in town yesterday.
A ring? Ray, that could be the focus. And Ray looks over and says, "Well, get rid of it." And it doesn't seem like Wiltar is hearing anything. He's sort of screaming and like gesturing, and there's this, like, he's setting fire to a good chunk of the open land right now. And he's a giant fucking hazard because he's, there's flames gouting out of him uncontrollably right now in his mad panic to get these things off of him. He's also screaming out that he hates dogs. Now, what are, let's see here. You guys have gone, the gnomes are sort of all trying to, talking to each other. Winston's like, "Ray, what do we do?" Ray's like, I'm not sure. Peter's like, "Well, we can let him get him." And Egon's like, "We got to get that ring off." And that is the end of the turn. Let's roll initiative. Once again, I rolled 2.
Initiative.
Okay.
Where did I put the dice?
It's a 2.
Ooh. Nat 1. 8. Okay. So it looks like it's going to go Badonk, then oh shit, I didn't go with after the sake of time, I'm just going to skip past Vax and Gerlich's turn. So we'll go Badonk, and then the gnomes, and then the hell things, and then then we'll go with Wiltar. So Badonk, you're up first. What are you doing?
I'll run over to the beasts and I'll say, "Get that ring off of them, you silly gnomes!" And then I'll attack the dogs, trying to clear some space for them.
Oh, to like focus some fire on you?
Yeah, to give them space to get to Wiltar or whatever his name is.
Okay. So, yeah, then the gnomes go next, and they all sort of like look at each other, and then all sort of like go racing in and dive on top of Wiltar. And he's like, "You're trying to kill me! You're trying to kill me!" And you can make an attack against the the hounds if you want. 15 plus. Oh, so close.
But now I can do fray damage.
You can do fray damage. Absolutely. Yep.
So
nice.
1 fray damage.
Okay. Was the fray damage on the? Well, I guess it's one you haven't damaged.
The other one, isn't that the way it always works?
It's just one that you didn't do primary damage to. You didn't hit that one. Well, I guess you're right. Yeah, it has to be to a different target. So yeah, you smash. Only magic users get to use it on the same. Right. So yeah. So once again, you batter this thing. Oh, you know what? I fucked one other thing up. So fray dice is only against creatures that have the same amount of hit dice as you or less.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you can't do it if they have more hit dice. Okay.
No, but the exception being magic users. Magic users can use it on everything. That's one of the advantages that the mages have. However, I'm going to let you do it this turn because you hit one of the first one that you hit there, and that's enough to actually sort of, you've shattered its whatever animating spirit is behind this thing, and it sort of shudders and then collapses in a heap of ash. The other one seems to, draw in some of its power and gets even bigger. The gnomes have knocked the guy down. This thing gets to attack first. Oh my goodness. Nat 20. So this thing turns. Actually, it does. I'm sorry. It ignores you. It still goes for the Nagpa. It leaps forward and then it sinks in its teeth into the Nagpa's arm, and he's like, it's got me! It's got me! Ah! And the gnomes are all sort of like, get his hand! Get his hand! The benefit of the that thing grabbing his hand is that now it's quite still, so they're easily able to get on the onto his claw and try and pull that ring off. Werbin, you're last up here. What do you want to do?
I will go. Let's try Fairy Fire.
Okay. What fairy fire does is just it illuminates something. Like
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, it basically rims it in fire or in a, like an outline, and I think it gives a bonus to hit though. Let's see here.
It goes up.
Yeah, hit gives +2 to hit.
+2 is pretty cool.
Okay.
I think that. Yeah.
Okay. So what does your fairy fire look like?
It does look like it looks like purple fire that it suddenly sort of starts burning a person's clothing, so that it's not doing damage to their clothing.
Okay. So it doesn't do any actual damage, but what it does is sort of it creates this freaky outline. So this thing kind of is you know what? I'll make a save for it. Let's see if it lets go of the thing's arm. Wrong dice. Okay, 7. Let's see, it'd be 9 plus your level is 12. So I think it actually fails. So yeah, it does. It sort of lets go of the of Wiltar's hand, but the gnomes are able to sort of jump on it. That's the end of the round. Let's roll initiative one more time, guys. Okay. All right. So it'll be let's see here. What do you guys got?
Rocking and rolling. I roll in 5.
Okay, so 5. And Bedonk.
A 9.
A 9. Oh, nice. Okay. So it'll go once again. Bedonk's up first. Then it is Wiltar, and then it is Wurbin, and then the gnomes and the critter.
So I'm trying to stay between it and the gnomes, trying to get the ring off Wiltar.
Okay.
Ooh, there we go.
Oh yeah, that's definitely got to be much better. Nice. So yeah, what does it look like as you smash this thing in the side of the head?
He's because it's so hot, he's sort of using his elbows where his robe comes up a bit, so that he's sort of keeping the hot coal off of himself a little bit.
Nice. Yeah. Wow. And you're battering this thing back and forth. More cracks are appearing on the side of its head. It's and snapping and snarling at the air. Let's see. Who was next here? That was Wiltar. Wiltar. Wiltar's going to hold his action. The next gnomes will. Oh no, Wurbin's up next. Wurbin, what do you want to do?
Wurbin will. My spells aren't so great. I'm going to cast Shalila on my staff.
Shalabi. Remember, you can also do a cantrip to attack if you want. Like if you're struggling with what kind of attack do you have, you could do that. You do have +2 to hit because of your fairy fire as well. So your total to hit would be like a +4.
Right. Oh, that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sure. I'm not done with those seeds yet. I have another pouch of other stuff in it.
Nice. Okay, so you pull your seeds back and go ahead.
All right, D20, right?
Yes, please. Yep, D20 +4.
+4.
Boom.
12.
12. Oh, so you cast it, but again, like it doesn't. It seems like these things more the concussive force of them blowing off seems to be blowing more away from this creature than they just don't get purchase in its side. Okay. Then it is the gnome's turn. They all sort of like push this ring off, yank it off his claw and then toss it to the ground. And or really more drop it to the ground. And at that, Wiltar sort of gestures with his hand. Yeah, and there's this sort of like purple lightning that sort of plays around this ring, and the ring just as if it like aged. Like you can see the metal it all tarnishes and then like corrodes and goes down to nothing. The stone that was fixed in it all sort of crumbles into ash until there's nothing left of it. And at that, the creature sort of like turns, and I want to make a morale check for it. Okay, initiative, guys.
Initiative.
Oh,
9. Oh, you are dominating initiative tonight there, Badonk. Hey, and Werbin's not far behind. So it'll be Badonk, Werbin, then the critters and the gnomes and Wiltar. What are you doing, Badonk?
Well, there's only one critter left, isn't there?
There is, yeah, and it seems distracted.
Okay, I'm going to try and finish it off.
Yep, go ahead. Whoa! So you have +4 to hit as well on top of that. So that's pretty awesome. That is definitely a hit, and that is certainly enough to destroy this thing. What does it look like as this thing falls apart?
He saw sort of how effective the elbows were, so he's just gone, full out with that and with his knees, and he's just sort of shredding through its coal body.
Okay, so yeah, it just wow, and this thing once again, as like its companion, just falls to pieces. Werbin, would you give me a druid craft check, please?
Yeah.
Do intellect as well too. I think I'm gonna see if you sense something here.
All right. That is a +1.
Okay, and then what's your wisdom?
Oh, my wisdom is +3.
Okay, so why don't you add +4 in total to the roll? That's just it'll be a trait roll plus your +4.
Oh, true.
Let's see here.
So 2 + 4 is snake eye.
No idea. Okay, so once that thing's gone, Egon Ray says to Egon, and Egon pulls out that they're all sort of like piled together in this like gnome pile. Pulls out this thing and he starts detecting again. He says it's clear. We should have a clear signal now. No more interference. And Wiltar sort of says, "You were all trying to kill me."
Well, I think that was actually your fault.
My fault? Why would it be my fault, Goblin?
Where did you get that ring?
The ring was a gift from a priest in town.
Yeah, an untrustworthy priest. A half-orc?
He sort of, his head pulls back like, Why? He seemed to know you.
Yeah, and he doesn't like us.
He looks at his hand. So he tried to kill you? By killing me?
Maybe, I don't know. What did you say to him?
I told him what was planned. That we would travel with you. That was to be the blessing of his false god. I only accepted it because I'm a representative of the city.
Well, that may have been a mistake.
The mistake was bringing you and agreeing to this foolhardy. We still see no evidence of this succeeding. Egon says, as the sun lowers, the necromantic energies... sorry, he's a gnome. As the necromantic forces as the sun is setting, the necromantic forces seem to be rising. Ray nods and says, it makes sense. If we wait until sundown, we have a better chance. Peter says, well, why wouldn't you want to stay out at night? I mean, everyone says the Barrowmoor is the best place to be at night, right?
No.
You want to party?
Extremely dangerous at night. We have never once spent the night here.
And Walt Wheelchair says, let's see, then you've heard it. This is a complete farce. And Ray says, oh, says it kind of like, his shoulders slump to the ground, not to the ground, but like he sort of slumps. And Winston says, come on. It says to you, Badon, come on. Can't we make an exception one time?
You will have to double your price.
We'll get you two. And Peter says, yeah. And if it goes bad, we don't have to pay anyway. Isn't that your approach?
Haha.
So you guys do wait until sundown. It takes a little bit of browbeating with Wiltar. But sure enough, the sun goes down.
Kev, if we're just sort of trying to be in the Barrowmoor, Badonk will convince them to at least be a little closer to town.
Egon insists on staying where
he wants this specific.
Yeah, because it needs to be a place of like strong necromantic energy.
Oh, I see.
Fortunately, you don't have to wait long. Now, the evening of or the night in the Barrowmoor is something even worse than you could than you would have suspected. The what do you call it? The mist call comes in very, very thick and close. It's even more difficult to see where you guys are. You basically have to sort of all crouch in near where that symbol is. Wiltar says, like, how are we ever finding our way back now? We're going to die out here. But fortunately, it's not long after sunset before the mists begin swirling around. And you can hear something in the thick white fog. You can hear tick, 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 as Egon's little meter is going crazy. I think we have something here. Ray, get the trap ready. And Ray throws it out. Peter, Winston, get the wands ready. And they both, pull their wands out. I'm going to say that because they're getting the trap set up, you guys are equipped with Ray and Egon's backpacks if you want. Because you guys are the appropriate size.
Yeah, if they'll show us how to use them, sure.
Yeah, they give you, in principle, how it works. This is how it should work. And you ask, well, how does it work? Well, this is how it should work. So you guys wait and wait and wait, and then the time comes, and you see suddenly something massive and looming that seems to be made out of both bone and mist and shredded cloth forms above you guys. Deep in its black sockets, there's pale and cold white light that stares out down at your collected form. That's when Egon calls out, Ray, and Ray says, punch it! And Peter activates his little ghost lasso, as does Winston. And Egon says, we're going to need all four to activate it. Guys?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so let's... And Werbin?
Yep.
All four streams are going to trap this thing. And you can see the outline is more easily visible now as the lightning sort of magical lightning tracks across this thing. And Egon says, Ray, it's stable. And Ray says, we've got to hit it. And he jumps forward and hits this little button. And then this little box kind of like, like Jack in the Box. It sort of makes that sound. And then it pops open. And there's this swirling kind of magical energy that comes out of the thing, grabs that spectral apparition that was before you and pulls it down into the box. And once again, the Barrowmaze is deathly silent. You guys all kind of look around. Egon walks up and tests it. Yes. It worked, as I suspected. And Peter kind of, Winston, I guess, can't help but let out a giant wahoo, which seems to echo off into the mists. And you hear in the mists,
okay, it works. Let's get out of here.
Ray, do you have another one of those? And Ray kind of looks and he says, it's a prototype, Peter. You know that.
Let's go.
it doesn't seem like there's any safe way to get out of here. Everywhere you start stepping, you can hear things moving in the fog. And that's when Winston steps forward and says, "Are we ready then?" Peter says, "You should have done it before." And he lifts up something that looks like a little hand crossbow. And you hear this, and something shoots out of the end of it that looks like a little ball of fire. And when it reaches about 50 feet in the air, it explodes out. And there's a shower of pink sparks that fall down on you guys. And at that, you hear a whoop, 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 like some massive beast or avian making its way through the air. And as this gets closer and closer, the mist is actually driven back from you guys. You can once again see the little strip of land and the water around you guys. And what is coming down is some other bizarre gnomish contraption that seems to be borne aloft by spinning discs. A rope comes down, and you hear a gnomish voice saying, "Get aboard, boys! We got to get out of here." And the guys all sort of scrambling up on this thing. Wiltar sort of, why didn't you tell me about this? And goes scrambling up. Werbin, do you make your way up the rope?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And lastly, so then Vaz heads up that, Gerlich heads up it. Badonk, you're looking up. All you see is the blackened opening of a gnomish death device.
Yeah.
What do you do?
He looks around at the moor and, all the sounds and everything. And he bites his lip hard and he climbs the rope.
Yeah, so you're sort of scrambling up the rope as these sort of like spectral limbs or arms are sort of like starting to grasp out of the fog towards you, and you kind of make your way up. And as soon as you're sort of almost at the top, the apex, this thing kind of arcs to the side and then starts making its way off. If you picture kind of like like an ornithopter kind of thing made out of like fabric and canvas and wood, that's sort of what this is. It's sort of like a steampunk helicopter type thing.
Cool.
And as this thing arcs its way towards the north, you guys all kind of crawl into the pit, or into the main section. And what do we want to leave it on, guys? I actually hadn't written an ending here. How do we think this session ends?
I think it would end with them handing over a copy of the prototype as promised.
Yeah. So what is it that you want to?
They actually convince the donk to come to their city to pick it up, and it's. I
think that is an awesome idea.
Hmm.
So what do you call it? If we want to end on a corny 80s note, what we say is like, all right, we're done. Yeah, you've got it. Hey, and you got your, and Winston says, and the approval? And Wiltar says, yes, you'll get your license. And then he says, all right, well, we certainly owe you. This is Ray talking, I guess. Once again, not in the fucking gnome voice. We owe you, Badonk, and we'll be sure to pay in full. You can collect the prototype in our office in Serene. That's where we're headed. And you kind of get like these big goblin eyes. It's like, and that's what we'll end on, is a close up of Badonk's shocked face. So
terror. Yeah.
Okay, so guys, now let's talk about what very quickly, because I know we're over time. So I mentioned at the outset of this that Carl Sargent had passed away last week. One of the many, many things, like Carl Sargent did a lot of very cool D&D stuff and some cool Shadowrun stuff, all of which I really, really love. But the thing that one of my absolute favorite products of his is right here. Top Ballista. So it's this hilarious product from Basic D&D that featured this flying city of Serene with its sky gnomes and its weird biplanes with magic wands as in the replace of machine guns and stuff like that. So I thought it would be hilarious. And the other thing is Carl Sargent was an active parapsychologist as well, too. He was very heavily involved with and interested in the paranormal and stuff like that. He actually wrote several books on that topic. So I thought, what better way to celebrate Carl Sargent's life than returning to perhaps his wackiest creation and indulging in a little ghost busting?
That was fun.
Yeah, well, thanks. It was a lot more heavily scripted than our other sessions, but I appreciate you guys rolling with the punches and indulging me in my puns today as well, too. So let's wrap things up here. So for those listening at home, also, guys, this is our 20th session of this campaign. So congratulations.
Wow.
Yeah.
Took a lot.
Yeah, we're certainly getting some legs on it right now. So what in terms of next session, I will leave Serene in the sky for another couple of days, and we can do actually this Friday, we've got another session. You guys are certainly free to explore and, try and get stuff out of Serene as well. I know Dave was actually looking for opportunities to try and find some kind of steampunky stuff. So this actually provides a happy excuse for that too.
Right, for sure.
For those listening at home, thank you so much for joining us for this kind of weirdo session with the gnome ghostbusters and the flying city of Serene. I hope you've enjoyed this brief diversion into weirdness. As always, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns regarding the session, please don't hesitate to leave a comment in the comment section below, and I will endeavor to respond in a timely fashion. Alternatively, you can reach me on Twitter at Dungeon Musings. That's all one word. Or you can shoot me an email at dungeonmusings@gmail.com. You also may notice that there are links in the description of this video. That is to the Heroes Save Villages campaign, charity fundraising campaign that we're running on the channel. This is something that we have paired up with a very cool charity called SOS Children's Villages International, who provide both advocacy and direct benefits to children who live in very high need circumstances. So if you'd like to, if you've enjoyed the session, if you enjoy the channel, I just ask that you consider clicking through, learning a little more about the Heroes Save Villages campaign, about SOS Children's Villages International. And if you're so inclined, there are a number of different options for making donations. Any donations go strictly to SOS Children's Villages or directly to them. There's no overhead that's caught up. I don't get any of it. It all goes to benefit the good work that the folks at SOS Children's Villages International do. And last but not least, of course, thank you to Jeff and Steve. Guys, it was great having the trio back together, the Wednesday trio. And I hope you guys enjoyed our wacko Ghostbuster session. We'll be back to the normal Barrowmaze grind come Friday. But I had a lot of fun cooking up this crazy session and going through it with you guys.
Yeah, it was fun.
All right. So until next time, folks, thanks so much for reviewing and for joining us. And we will see you again very soon. See ya.